Pick 1212. Copy, copy here. Got you loud and clear. Green, rolling fine.
The Performance Motorsports Network presents Burning Rubber Radio.
Burning rubber, baby.
I know what the tradition is. You don't even have to explain it. And here it is. Burning rubber, baby!
Now, from the White Lightning TV studios in Statesville, North Carolina, here is your host, Andy DeLay.
Burning rubber, baby. It's that time again. The fastest 60 minutes in motorsports. Burning Rubber Radio with nuts that we have here in the studio. I'm Andy DeLay along beside Wayne Owens and Zachary Mertez this week. Oh my gosh, Wayne. We got a heck of a show for everybody like usual.
Man, that we do. We have got one heck of a show lined out for you. We've got Michael McDowell winning at Indy. We've got Kyle Larson taking home.
No. He didn't win at Indy. He spanked them at Indy.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
That is true. And we'll touch on all that in News of the Week here in just a minute. Kyle Larson also takes home a win this past weekend in the Knoxville Nationals right before going and running at the Indianapolis Road Course. God knows we've got a whole bunch of other stuff too. Justin Ashley, Erica Enders, Bob Tasca from the NHRA getting wins this past weekend. And then not only that,
the NASCAR chef, baby.
The NASCAR chef's going to be on with us here. And then it's been kind of a weird scheduling thing with moving our show's recording time around here. And we like to be transparent with folks. You know, we don't want to make it seem like we're actually live on air when we're not live on air, because we air in multiple time zones, air multiple times at different time zones across the country. So, you know, we record the show on Mondays. We were supposed to have one guest. Sadly, that guest was not available again this week. So we have got another fill-in that we're going to take here, and that being an old friend of the show, and that being one silly Steve Arpin, Andy.
Yeah, Steve Arpin, been around with us since back in 2009, and back in his ARCA days, of course, we went with him to Junior Motorsports when he ran there in the Xfinity Series and everything. And now he's been doing a lot of dirt racing, all kinds of good stuff. So
well, and actually his most recent endeavor, he now owns a chassis company.
That's right. He owns a chassis company now and everything. So
and
that's really neat stuff. And hey, real quick, while I'm saying, I want to welcome one of our new affiliates, the folks out listening in Elk Mountain, Wyoming. Welcome to the Burning Rubber Radio family here. The big city of Elk Mountain. Hope you can stand us, folks.
Well, I'll tell you what, they're gonna get an earful this week here with in a good way, mind you, because you know when we talk about Steve Arpin, Andy, you know and now that he actually has to work on chassis, we can officially say he's been playing with Joey Coulter's nuts again.
Oh my gosh, way back. Man, you're going back to Salem, Indiana, about 10, 12 years ago.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, that race, when we walked in to cover the ARCA race in Salem, I remember in the morning, me and Charles Robinson walk in there and I hear, "Burning rubber, baby!"
Yep.
Echoing through the, there's no one there. I'm like, who in the heck? And turn around, there's Arpin up there in the top of the stands. I don't know what he was doing, and he was over there yelling, "Burning rubber, baby!" So
You guys talk about all this stuff, and like 10, 12 years ago, I was in elementary school, so I mean,
well,
whatever.
You missed out on a lot of fun. We'll just put it that way.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Oh God, you remember the day back at Rockingham? Now this is again 2010. Oh God, when we I think it was you and who was it? Scott Alves that was working on a race car for the ARCA Menard series back then, and fun times.
I remember us sitting there interviewing Bill Elliott and Schrader and everyone else in the world on top of the media center at Rockingham, and it was like 20 below zero out there.
No, it wasn't.
Wind blowing. It was cold.
Oh, man. It was cold, but again, it was in November too, and we were on top of the media center there at Rockingham.
Oh my gosh! I'll never forget. It was when Parker Kligerman and Justin. What was his name? Justin Lofton. That's it. They were going head to head for the big ARCA championship back in the day. Oh my gosh.
Yep. God knows the memories that were made that day for sure. But yeah, we're looking forward to talking to old silly Steve Arpin here later on in the show. And can't forget our sponsors this week here. I got to talk about Monster 3X Concept Lures. and that being at monster3xusa.com. Make sure you go get a hold of all of your fishing needs right there at monster3xusa.com. Heights Meat Market. Hey, everybody, we know you're listening again this week, so John's gonna be ordering some steak from you here very soon. Actually, if you ship across the state lines
And I'm
here,
sure they do.
If you do, I think I need to place an order for some steak myself, actually. So,
Yep.
You could stand to lose a few steaks, Wayne.
Well, he don't have any meat to play with over there, so he. Oh my
folks,
gosh!
this show's
oh,
already
my
gone
Lord.
off the rails, and we're barely 4 minutes into it this week, but we love it here. With that said, though,
Fell out of his chair.
with that said here, folks, while Zach recovers and slowly climbs back into his chair there, we're going to step aside. We're going to take our first foreign fuel of the show, and when we come back, we got some news of the week for you, including Michael McDowell's win this past weekend at Indy.
Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head to head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.
I'm Andy DeLay, and you're listening to Burning Rubber Radio on the Performance Motorsports Network.
Want to maximize your driving potential? Drive Refine is the driver optimization program for you. Led by NASCAR winning driver Joey Coulter. No matter if you race locally, nationally, or on a simulator, with a little or a lot of experience, Drive Refine focuses on your tuning scale to optimize communication between the driver and their crew chief. Visit driverefine.com for more information today.
Hey, this is former NASCAR driver Joey Coulter. This isn't your typical driver coaching. This is Drive Refine.
Burning Rubber Radio is social. Like the show at facebook.com/Burning Rubber Radio. Follow on Twitter at twitter.com/BRR_PMN. And on Instagram at instagram.com/Burning Rubber Radio. Now back to more Burning Rubber.
And we are back on Burning Rubber Radio on the Performance Motorsports Network, the Tan Talk Radio Network, Wingding.tv. Wayne Owens, Andy DeLay, Zachary Burtis hanging out with you here this week. And Andy, gotta jump right on into the news of the week here. And news we have got, because this guy has had a heck of a time in 2023 so far. Some rough finishes, some good finishes, albeit the same thing all the way around. And then we find out last week that Front Row Motorsports exercised their option to keep him for 2024, and now he's going to go into the playoffs this year, that being Michael McDowell.
Michael McDowell. I'm speechless, first off, as you can tell. Michael McDowell's had some good runs. He's actually made my Burning Rubber Racing Report power rankings once or twice this year. But he spanked everybody at Indy yesterday. I mean, dominant. Nobody could touch him.
Yeah, Front Row Motorsports has got their road course program really figured out. And I was actually telling a few friends yesterday that, we've seen a lot of recently good speed out of Michael McDowell, not only on the road courses, he's qualifying well on the ovals, and he's running up in the top 15 consistently. So if you ask me, I think Front Row Motorsports is starting to become a championship contending program.
I would agree with you.
Let me really quick interject. They don't spend top dollar. They are not a top dollar team.
No, they're really not. And that was one thing, that was one thing with Bob Jenkins too, is they you know, they might not have had like Hendrick Motorsports equipment or Hendrick Motorsports money or anything like that, but in the last couple of years, even prior to the Gen 7, they have put out an effort that honestly I have been very impressed with.
Yes, I am too, man. Very good stuff.
And so some good stuff all the way around there. Yeah, McDowell gets the win by 0.937 seconds, so just under a full second of elapsed time difference between himself and Chase Elliott. And I know a couple of people picked Chase last week, and then of course Taylor had Kamui Kobayashi. Even though we gave him the default pick, we just let him go ahead and have Kobayashi. Kobayashi didn't do too good either, thanks to Ricky Stenhouse Jr. And then of course Joey Logano. You know, we talked about in the opening segment here where our boy JT was not too thrilled with Logano pretty much dumping Justin Haley on lap 2, and it's like, at that point, it's like you got 87 laps. What the heck are you doing at that point, dumping somebody that early in a race?
Well, it's also road course racing. Some of these guys, like for instance, Kyle Busch, if you notice, man, there was smoke coming out from under his car all day long. And he wasn't Kyle was over driving it on purpose. I guess he lost a part of his valve train, was down the cylinder from what I understand.
Yep. He was down on power, and it caused him to have to drive the car differently. And usually when you start driving these cars differently, it really starts to affect how the car handles. It's like that with any race car. And, you know, he just started flat spotting the tires from too much lockup, and it eventually kind of did him in.
Yep.
That did him in for sure. So, you know, it's road course racing, which they're going to do again this coming week. Here it's Sunday. They are at Watkins Glen, so we're not done turning left and turning right.
No, but hopefully, as compared to last year, they can get it in without having a totally soaked racetrack. And God knows, I could tell the stories of, you know, being right up on top of the media center last year, and literally all comes a freaking flood onto Watkins Glen International. And like, even with the track drivers doing what they do, there were still spots where that track was completely flooded last year, and it was a mess. I'm just going to be honest, it was a mess. But moving on over to the NASCAR Xfinity Series here real quick, Andy, we talked about it just a little bit in the open, where Ty Gibbs took a little bit of a run in the Xfinity Series last weekend and got himself the win at the Indy Road Course.
That he did. He pretty much got past the dominant A.J. Allmendinger. Sam Mayer finished second in that race, and Allmendinger faded to third. But talking about wet racetracks, there was a 45-minute red flag in the Xfinity Series race, and what I like is they came back on a damp track using rain tires.
Yep. Well, and that's the thing with road courses. They've got the rain tires that they can do that with. But yeah, that lightning hold, man, that is never fun to have to deal with a ground stop like that.
No. What I also want to point out, though, NASCAR's trying to cut costs, you know, for the teams, which right now isn't really working.
No.
But these rain tires, although it's a great deal for us watching it, you know, all right, they're back on the track and it's not dry. Man, for these small teams, those tires, you're looking at $300 to $500 a tire.
Yeah. Easily.
You know, $2,000, $2,500 a set. Just go out there and drive the track for NASCAR.
Yep. And,
so,
and even then, the rain radials really don't do much to dry the track more so than what the track drivers already do. So, I mean, really, in theory, it's just like driving on, I-95 or I-75 in Florida after a good rainstorm.
Basically, yeah, but it's a heck of a cost for the teams to incur, especially the smaller teams, to have to bring a set of rain tires, and those things wear like crazy, you know, and if it starts drying out, you're going to smoke your rain tires real quick.
Yep.
They're usually meant to be used in the rain, so once you put them on a dry track, they go
woo!
Just like that. Just like that.
Yep. And moving on over now, one other thing we can touch on here real quick, or two other things we can touch on real quick here before we get to our next break. And that being that the opening of the playoffs for the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series was this past weekend at Indianapolis Raceway Park, or Lucas Oil Raceway. And Ty Majeski dominates and gets the opening win in the Truck Series playoffs there, Andy.
You almost said Camping World.
Almost.
I do that all the time.
Almost.
Yes. Ty Majeski takes the win over there, but who else was in that race? SVG.
Mm-hmm.
I do believe he finished 19th.
Yep, he finished 19th. He was the first car to finish one lap down. He actually had a pretty good oval showing for his first time, on a short track, and it wasn't like he was on a super speedway or something where it's kind of easy to run there. He was on a short track where he actually needs to be able to learn to utilize what the track has to offer, what the truck has to offer. It's a whole lot different ballgame from a Cup car, so it's nice to see that he got a lot of good action there, especially with Nice Motorsports. It's a good group, and they've got a lot of good short track programs, and, Hocevar, one great guy to learn from. He was doing really good that night, too.
Yes. And another thing, if I could interject here about SVG, if folks thought he was going to go out there and run top 10 in his first ever oval race, they're sadly mistaken. This race right here was one of the races NASCAR, IRP, Martinsville. Those are two tracks that they require their drivers that want to be in the series to run first. Even though he had won in the Cup Series, he's never been on an oval. So NASCAR wanted to basically have him audition and the truck, which he did. And he wasn't out there to win this, folks. He was out there to keep the sheet metal in one piece and learn the physics of a short oval.
But
He
in all fairness,
progressively
honesty,
gained speed all throughout the day.
that's what I was just about to say. For his first outing, he did better than most folks that I could ever even think of talking about. In fact, actually, Zach, you had a great stat too, right before the show went on the air here.
He finished top 10 in the Indy Road Course yesterday, which is the first driver
Sunday
since
for
Terry
folks
Labonte
listening.
in 1978 to start their Cup Series career with back-to-back top 10 finishes.
Yep. So you think about that. We're talking, like, say, fast forward to 2028, 50 years. So 5 years after that. So 45 years it's been since somebody has set that precedent stat. So that is extremely impressive.
And if you're looking at stats moving forward, just keep in mind that Van Gisbergen he's been one of the best drivers so far in his recent starts, and the deals are trying to be finalized where he's going to run full season with Trackhouse next year.
Yep.
You think it's going to be Trackhouse?
It's been confirmed that he's been in talks with Trackhouse, and he's had multiple offers with other teams. All have been full time, and we talked about this last week on the show it's really great that his team over with the V8 Supercars are being super, super lenient and allowing him to be released from his contract a year early if he wants to pursue the NASCAR Cup Series. And he's been lenient with them, saying, I don't want to leave you guys in a bad spot. He wants to help find a driver that will end up replacing him. Right. It's been super amazing to see the compatibility, really, between V8 Supercars and NASCAR with just allowing their drivers to step over and try something new and eventually, from the looks of what Van Gisbergen is trying to do, run full time.
Well, let me say something here about that. First off, it is mind-blowing that SVG's been able to do this. But at the same time, these Cup cars were based on the basic design of the Australian supercar. So it's really no surprise that he's able to basically jump from his supercars into our Cup cars and work. But here's what I say that you'll see. The teams are going, oh, really? You watch, you're going to see a lot more supercar drivers being recruited by teams to be road course ringers as things progress.
But with that said, folks, we have got to get to our next four in fuel.
I'm Captain Jeff Figures from Florida Fishing and Adventures. Do you want to constantly catch more fish, spend less time changing baits? If so, Monster 3X baits, jigs, and scents are the answer. Monster 3X baits are tough, durable, and resistant, which allows you to catch more fish per bait. The combination of the Monster 3X lure with the Procure Baits Super Scent, you will be landing more fish right away. Whether it's the Monster 3X Ultra Soft or the X Swim lures, swim shad, paddle tails, crawfish, or the X Frog, Monster 3X, you'll always find it in my tackle box.
Visit our website at burningrubberradio.com for recipes from the NASCAR chef, John Dix, and more great content. Now back to more Burning Rubber Radio.
And we are back on Burning Rubber Radio on the Performance Motorsports Network, Tan Talk Radio Network, Wingding.tv. Wayne Owens in here all by my lonesome right now. Andy and Zach had to step out of the studio for just a little bit here. But I'll tell you what, I'm gonna make it up to everybody here. We got somebody that we have not had on this program in a very, very long time. And that being a good friend of ours from way back in the Arkham Menard series days, and that'd be Steve Arpin. Steve, what is up, buddy?
Oh, too much these days. We're keeping ourselves busy, but having a lot of fun with it. How are you? It's been a long time.
Yeah, it has. The last time we talked to you, you were doing GRC stuff out in Canada and out in the Midwest and everything like that. But I hear nowadays you, my friend, have got a chassis shop and you are building out dirt late models.
Yeah, so once COVID hit, the racing world kind of changed directions quite rapidly a few times.
Right.
So we just honestly we made a shift and had an awesome team put together and was able to acquire a company called Longhorn Chassis. So now we're building some of the best dirt late models and dirt modifieds in the country and having fun with it.
I was going to say, because we hear about Longhorn Chassis all the time, all over the racing world. And now, for those who may not know about Longhorn Chassis, give us a little bit of background on it. Prior, from when you took over and even before then.
So it was built by Justin Labonte, who's Terry Labonte's son, and he was partners in it with both Terry and Bobby Labonte. And honestly, they're just a bunch of badass racers that built a badass race car. Had a lot of really good people and everything with their program, but they never anticipated growing the way it did. So we just put our heads together and we wanted to come in and make a really good business out of it rather than just a program that's building badass cars and trying to support a bunch of people at the same time, right? Like doing all that just takes a lot of infrastructure and a lot of planning. So we stepped in and Justin's still involved and he kind of runs with the competition side of things and has fun with that. Then we're doing the business end of it, and we've just been so lucky to have so many incredible race teams, incredible drivers put their faith in us to build them race cars.
Most definitely. Now from the dirt late model perspective, now granted, it's still something you would think I would know a lot about considering how long I've been involved in racing, but it's still something that's somewhat foreign to me, and I'll be honest with you. So dirt late models, do you guys do anything like say with dirt modifieds or anything like that, or is it specifically just late models?
Oh no, like I was just saying, we're both dirt modifieds and dirt late models.
Okay, so at that point, then, have you had the opportunity to work with? I'm gonna rattle off some names here, and I'm gonna see if you had the opportunity to work with them yet from a chassis perspective. The names of, like, say, Kenny Wallace or maybe even Red Farmer.
Neither of those two. So right now we're building about 30 modifieds a year and about 250 late models a year.
Wow.
So we focus primarily on the late model side. But we got some of the biggest names in that sport. So Kyle Larson drives one of our test cars.
Really?
Jonathan Davenport's in our stuff. Tim McCready, Brendan Overton, Mikey Marler, lots of the biggest names in the sport are driving our stuff. And our modified program, we really focus on just taking care of the Saturday night racer and have a lot of fun with that.
Most definitely. Now obviously, because you've been on the Sunday side of things when it comes to motorsports. How does it feel, knowing that you're going from being in the big time like you were in the Arkham Menard series and even doing some stuff in the NASCAR side of things, all the way back to getting your hands dirty with the grassroots side of things, because the grassroots, honestly, personally, I feel like that's always where it's been at, and really needs to have the focus back on anyway.
Honestly, for me, it was never a question of when I was going to get back into it. It was if I was going to get back into it, it was a question of when. And when COVID hit and everything, all my goals with chasing asphalt racing was just simply to earn enough money to have a badass dirt team. Really.
Really?
So
we never knew that about you.
Well, I never said that at the time because people probably would have got mad. You know how it is these days. People get mad about everything. So I didn't say it at the time, but my whole goal, my passion is definitely dirt racing. So ultimately, the goal was always to get back here. I just didn't know when and how. And when this opportunity presented itself, it was just a no-brainer for me. And able to keep my partners with Paul and John Leach from Lone Bro and merge into this Longhorn thing, and just absolutely loving every second of it.
Very cool. Now I have to ask, because obviously you since dirt is your passion, and knowing that you are working with the chassis and everything like that, is it possible that we may see Steve Arpin back out on a dirt track in the near future?
Oh, I still race every now and then. I've honestly, we're just been very, very busy with all the just keeping up building all these race cars. So that's been our focus right now. But I promised myself that my reward to myself, once we get caught up and everything going really well, that we'll definitely build myself a car and jump back into it. So right now I've got some pretty badass drivers driving all my stuff, and pretty excited about the guys we're working with.
So, and going into the engineering aspect of things now too, while we're thinking about it here, what goes into building a chassis? You know, for say that armchair fan that, you know, doesn't necessarily know what they're looking at every Sunday on a racetrack or every Saturday night when they go to their local short tracks or local dirt tracks. How much time, effort, and work goes into building a proper certified chassis for some of these big names, or even for the small guys?
Oh God, honestly, it's just like every other business in the world, just like every other thing in the world. It's all about the people. It's not, as far as how much time goes into building the chassis. I guess the real answer to that is you can't put a number on it, because yes, now we've got pretty fast at it, pretty efficient at it, because we put so much time, so much effort, so many hours into developing the car to where everything needs to be, into figuring out the best way to build it, the best way to manufacture it, into the best fixtures and all the different ways to and so on and so forth. So the biggest thing is the amount of overhead that goes into developing these cars to where they're at is crazy. The amount of man hours and people that it takes to do it. As far as building a chassis, we're at the point where we're so efficient that we can especially on the late model side, we can build a chassis in about a day and a half.
Wow. Yeah.
But if we had to start over and do it all again right now, it would. But when you first start, it takes months to build one. So it's a tough deal.
Well, there you go, folks. I'll tell you, and firsthand knowledge coming from the guy one of the guys who knows best, literally, when it comes to chassis development at this point. And you know, I mean, Steve's even telling you, a couple of months minimum to build an effective chassis if you're just starting out learning how to do it. But once you get the process down, day and a half tops. So that goes to show not only a level of efficiency, Steve, but it also goes to show, like you said, the quality of the manpower that you have working for you or with you as well.
Absolutely. I'm a firm believer that everything's all about the people, right? Everything's all about the people. So we've got about 40 guys here working now, and it's 40 of the best people I've ever worked with. So I just love every minute of it.
Very cool stuff, buddy. Well, knowing that you are a rather busy guy, we're going to let you get ready to get back into the shop here and get cranking out some more of those badass chassis, literally. And you know what? I wouldn't be surprised if one day we hear that Lightning chassis or Longhorn chassis gets renamed to badass chassis. I'm just going to say. Oh, man. But
we could have a lot of fun trying to figure out what to name things, you and I.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Well, yeah. Well, like back in the day when we were talking about playing with Joey Coulter's nuts.
Hey, everybody needs someone to hold their nuts.
And by the way, folks, when you're listening to this show and you're listening to that specific comment, we are not talking about anything like that. We're talking about a set of mechanical nuts that go on a race car. So don't go finding things that aren't there. But Steve, with that said here, buddy, we get it from you every single time. And you know the tradition. And it's a big old burning rubber, baby, at the top of your lungs. And who knows, Matt, instead of 2/10 on the racetrack, that might help you get a chassis out in a half a day instead of a day.
Burning rubber, baby. Thanks for having me, fellas.
Ladies and gentlemen, that is Steve Arpin. And with that said here, we're going to step aside. We're going to take our next 4 in fuel. And when we come back, the NASCAR chef, John Dix, is in the house.
Want to maximize your driving potential? Drive Refine is the driver optimization program for you. Led by NASCAR winning driver Joey Coulter. No matter if you race locally, nationally, or on a simulator, with a little or a lot of experience, Drive Refine focuses on your tuning scale to optimize communication between the driver and their crew chief. Visit driverefine.com for more information today.
Hey, this is former NASCAR driver Joey Coulter. This isn't your typical driver coaching. This is Drive Refine.
This is Burning Rubber Radio. Now let's get cooking in the kitchen with the NASCAR chef, John Dix.
And we are back on Burning Rubber Radio on the Performance Motorsports Network, Tan Talk Radio Network, Wingding.tv. Wayne Owens, Andy DeLay, Zachary Murtis hanging out with you this week here on the show. And Andy, you know what time it is, brother. That grill is fired up.
Oh, yeah, I can smell that grill. It's time to talk to the NASCAR chef, John Dix. How you doing, buddy?
Hey, guys. Burning rubber, baby.
Burning rubber.
Burning rubber, baby.
So, John, what do we got? What we got good cooking this week here, buddy?
Well, guys, a lot of people are going back to school. So, schedules are getting a little bit tighter and a little busier. So I'm doing a very simple crock pot recipe that you can throw on when you leave the house, and it's done when you get home. Okay. It is crock pot sweet and sour chicken.
Oof, that sounds temptatious already.
It's very simple, too, guys. You're going to start with 2 pounds of chicken tenders, 1 cup of pineapple juice, a half a cup of brown sugar, 3/4 of a cup of soy sauce, and a couple tablespoons of canola oil. And what you're going to do, guys, you're going to cut the chicken tenders in little pieces, put the oil in a pan, and lightly brown it in the skillet. You don't need to brown it too much. Just get a little bit brown. All right, you don't want to overcook it because it's going to, remember now, it's going to cook in the crock pot. Okay, in a bowl, you want to mix the pineapple juice, the brown sugar, and the soy sauce, and then stir in your chicken pieces in the bowl and get them real covered real good. Pour the mixture into a crock pot and cook it on low for about 7 to 8 hours. When you get home, it's ready. You walk in the house and work. You're hungry, you're tired, and it's going to smell molicious.
He's been saying that a couple weeks in a row now. Molicious. I've been wondering where that come from.
Maul the food, man.
Molicious.
And guys, you can actually serve this chicken over rice too. So what we did when we made it, we actually for the last hour we added the rice to it and just mixed it all up.
So just kind of incorporated it in the last little bit. Nice.
Yes, sir.
Well, very good
stuff. I'm going to try to make this week. I'll tell you how it turns out next week.
There you go.
Well, and you know what? I'll tell you what. From a cooking perspective too, I actually found a little tool that for living in an apartment, Andy, I'm not going to lie, actually has been quite helpful. An
oven, microwave.
Actually, no. I found an air grill at Walmart, and it was like I think I paid like $50 for it. But John, it's got one of those drip trays underneath. You fill it up with a little bit of water, and it catches all the drip from what you're cooking on the grill. And
right,
man, I ain't gonna lie, that is next to an actual charcoal fired grill. That is some of the best grilled food I have ever had.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's good, Wayne, because that grill is good for you. And I personally have never tried one, but I've heard a lot of good things about it.
Yeah.
Let me tell you a little story about Wayne Owens and his cooking stuff and all of that. I'm telling you what, you think, this is horse manure. No, it probably works because he came over to my house here about a month ago and he brought me this stinking rum. I shouldn't say stinking because I drank 2 bottles of it now, this Blue Chair Bay coconut rum.
Mm-hmm.
So, if Wayne Owens says it's good, you know what? It's good.
Mm-hmm.
There you go. Hey, Andy, that's how we all 3 got to be fat boys.
That's right.
well, and Andy might want to reemphasize that point. Not only did I get him hooked on Blue Chair Bait, I got him hooked on Bailey's. I mixed in with it.
Oh my gosh!
And so that, and he actually, Andy, you got me hooked on something. That St. Bernard's that I seen you with the other day.
Yeah,
I went and
right.
got some of that, and that is some of the best Irish cream I've ever had.
Oh my gosh! Oh, this is
And-
good stuff. So, John, see what you've done. You start talking about cooking, and we talk about alcohol. That's
There you go.
Well, I mean, hey, they all go hand in hand with one another. You can't have a good drink without some good food.
yeah.
Hey,
that's
Zach,
right,
try to
man.
keep an eye on those two for me, please.
Oh, I will, John. I'll make sure they don't get any more fat than they already are.
No. What you got to worry about with us is getting
What's that? Did that say fluffy or frosty?
toasty.
Oh, toasty. Okay, I'm sorry. I was like, what the heck? Okay, back to the racing radio show here.
We got a lot of racing news we still have to go over.
Well, we'll be doing that in the next segment. And folks, again, if you ever want to get a hold of the NASCAR chef, all you got to do is send him an email at racingtothegrill. That's RACING, the number 2, thegrill@gmail.com. I'll tell you what, folks, we are going to show you John's recipe one last time here before we go to our next quick Ford fuel. And when we come back, we're going to be getting some final news of the weekend, including our picks coming up this weekend for Watkins Glen.
I'm Captain Jeff Figures from Florida Fishing and Adventures. Do you want to constantly catch more fish, spend less time changing baits? If so, Monster 3X baits, jigs, and scents are the answer. Monster 3X baits are tough, durable, and resistant, which allows you to catch more fish per bait. The combination of the Monster 3X lure with the Procure Baits Super Scent, you will be landing more fish right away. Whether it's the Monster 3X Ultra Soft or the X Swim lures, swim shad, paddle tails, crawfish, or the X Frog. Monster 3X, you'll always find it in my tackle box.
Burning Rubber Radio is social. Like the show at facebook.com/Burning Rubber Radio. Follow on Twitter at twitter.com/BRR_PMN. And on Instagram at instagram.com/Burning Rubber Radio. Now back to more Burning Rubber.
And we are back on Burning Rubber Radio on the Performance Motorsports Network, Tan Talk Radio Network, Wingding.tv. Wayne Owens, Andy DeLay, Zachary Murders hanging out here with you on the show this week. And Andy, I'll tell you what, brother, we have got to get into some final news of the week here real quick before we get ready to get out of here for Watkins Glen for the week. And, you know, I totally forgot the Knoxville Nationals were this past weekend, too, along with everything going on in Indianapolis. And, well, you know, with it being so close, Kyle Larson, he goes over to Knoxville, Iowa, and gets himself a $185,000 payday at the 62nd annual NOS Energy Drink Knoxville Nats.
Yeah, that's outstanding. Like I said before, people must hate it when they see his hauler pull up to the tracks for his little guy.
Kyle Larson, he's just like Tony Stewart. He's one of the most versatile drivers of our generation.
All day long.
Yep.
If he will be one of the GOATs, man, when it's all said and done.
That he will be.
We've actually got, I don't know what your schedule was, Wayne, but we got some interesting news that just popped up not half an hour ago.
Oh, do tell. So for folks listening to the show, by the way, this is news that is broke on Monday, August the 14th. So what you got, Zach?
Monday, August 14th, for the first time in 3 years, we have NASCAR Cup cars testing on the Indianapolis Oval.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I didn't hear it.
They're
us a little
testing
more.
on the Oval right now. I'm pretty sure. I don't know if it's performance testing like they were doing at Richmond a few weeks ago. It might be a Goodyear tire test, but I do know for certain that things have been moving in the direction that the Indy Oval might return next year.
Please,
it is purely speculation at the moment, though, because the IndyCar date is supposedly changing, and IMSA has been doing a lot of testing with the Indianapolis road course, and they're actually running the Indy road course. I don't know if they're running it this year, but they are definitely running it next year. It's on the IMSA 2024 schedule, which just got released either last week or the week before, and the speculation goes to show that if IndyCar is changing its date, that Roger Penske and Indianapolis Motor Speedway might push for NASCAR to say, hey, let's bring the oval back for 2024 because you've had the fan base decided pretty much half and half on some want the road course and some want the oval, but a lot of people are leaning towards the road course because being as someone who was born in 2001 when it was still considered a crown jewel race, the Brickyard 400, the Coca-Cola 600, the Southern 500, the Daytona 500, that's been the 4 crown jewel races of NASCAR, and personally, I would like to see it come back.
You and me both, and I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm all for the road courses because obviously Watkins Glen, you got other tracks like Laguna Seca, Road Atlanta, you've got Road America, and I mean even that shamble of a race known as the Chicago Street Course, and so the fact is we've
too bad.
Well, it wasn't that great in my opinion either, but we won't go into it. But the fact still resides is that we have plenty of options for road courses where we don't necessarily need to change the configuration of one. I mean, well, okay, the Charlotte Roval being another one. We've got options to get plenty of road course racing in per year. I mean, after all, we have 36 races throughout an entire racing season from February to November. I'm pretty certain, without changing the configuration of a track to match dates with somebody else, that you could easily bring back the Brickyard 400. Because personally, in my opinion, I'm with you, Zach. That was a crown jewel race that should have never went away.
Why did it go away?
Because people found it boring. It went single file racing. It was the cars couldn't handle it very well.
They couldn't run more than 10 or 15 laps without the tires going all to hell. That was the reason that they got rid of the oval. So that's why I giggle when you say it's Goodyear running a tire test there. Mm-hmm. They got a lot of R&D to do if they want to make a tire that's going to work.
Same reason that you can't necessarily go back to Rockingham right now. The track is still diamond grade. It got repaved, great, but it's still diamond grade. It's going to wear those tires out in like 10 laps.
Yep.
That's why Car Store didn't run there not too long ago. They said they were going to run Rockingham, and they ultimately decided against it because they couldn't get the tires to come up to temperature correctly or something, or it was just a tire wear. Mm-hmm. But, we'll see how everything goes moving forward. But speaking of moving forward, you guys wanted to be surprised, and I got news for you guys. So, as of last week, this being Monday, August 14th, as of last week, about Thursday, or it was either Wednesday or Thursday, maybe Friday that it got announced, Noah Gragson has requested that Legacy Motor Club release him from his contract while he completes his NASCAR sensitivity training and reinstatement to relieve his suspension. So he was not released by Legacy Motor Club. He asked to be released, and Legacy Motor Club honored it, and he has effectively been cut from his contract when it comes to Legacy Motor Club.
Yeah, well,
is that what you were going to surprise us with?
We talked.
Did
about
you not
that.
know?
We talked about that over the weekend.
Well,
so
anyway, while we're talking about Noah, and I'm going to call him what I call him, Noah Gragson, because that's the way it looks like it, and I've called him Noah Gragson ever since. So this is total and absolute bullshit. The fact that this is even a thing anyway. Yeah, did he like an off-colored post? Yeah, he did. Was it something that maybe should have been talked to about? Sure. Something to go through all this sensitivity training and everything. Get out of here, man. This is ridiculous. Let's sit folks down and have them listen to a rap album that's out right now or something like that. Those guys don't get sensitivity training. What the heck, man? Enough is enough. NASCAR, this is ridiculous.
Well, and that's like, case in point. I was in my full-time work as an Uber driver. I was taking somebody to a concert this past weekend, and in the process of it, they asked if I'd turn on a specific song for them. I turned it on, and every 5 words out of the person's mouth was the N-word.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
And I mean, honestly, I had to turn it off because I wasn't going to listen to that crap.
Yeah.
In the same respect, though, and I'm going to play a little bit of devil's advocate here, NASCAR is business. And when these drivers sign their contracts with their team and sign these contracts to get their NASCAR hard cards and their licenses, they're an extension and a representation of NASCAR as a business. and NASCAR doesn't want their business being put in a bad light because their drivers are doing something that might not be the best thing in the world.
Hold on.
Now, I get
hold on.
what
Let
you
me
guys
interject
are
real quick. Hold on. Where's the due process, Zach?
Mm-hmm.
There is no due. What keeps somebody from going in and hacking somebody's, a driver's, a team's account, NASCAR's account for anything, and putting a simple like somewhere it shouldn't be, and then everything collapsing on itself before they even give the person any due process?
No, I
none.
understand that. I'm speaking in the manner of, if everything goes as it should, and there is the due process that you say needs to happen, that drivers need to make sure that they are putting themselves in a good light and not a bad light. Now, I'm not saying that Gragson didn't necessarily just do a click of the thumb, just scrolling through and was
That's
just
what I'm
like,
saying.
I've done it before. And
Everyone has.
It's happened. Now, when it comes to NASCAR, though, these drivers have kids that watch them. They have businesses that look at them for representation and sponsorship. And there are businesses nowadays that, with the new and the changing times, they don't want to be associated with something that they might think might hurt their image.
Well, but in the same right, something to also think about too, and we actually didn't bring up this point last week when me and Joey were talking about it, is the guy that found this whole thing where Gragson liked it. This is a dude that by and yes, folks, we're getting a little political here, and I am quite okay with it. I hope you are. If not, we understand if you turn it off for a minute here. But the fact is, the guy that found this post is a known SJW in the NASCAR community who constantly tries to find reasons to get drivers suspended.
I'm not going to say SJW. That's not the way to put it. Man's a keyboard warrior. That's the best way to say it.
Same thing. Same thing.
There have been many occasions where he's pulled up drivers' tweets from 10 years ago to, ruin their career and cancel them. And, it's just for kicks and giggles. I decided to go look on there actually over the weekend after the race was over, and I see him tweeting about a lot of old tweets that I can't say on the air without actually getting some sort of backlash for it. That he was talking about things that Michael McDowell said not too in the recent past, about maybe 10, 12 years ago. And why do you need to bring it up? Why do you need to bring that up on social media? Not to mention, these drivers have kids. A lot of these drivers have kids. These kids do not want to go be looking on there and seeing their dads or their moms going on to social media and saying things that they may not want to say nowadays. Something that they don't want their kids looking at. Why do you need to bring it up now? They would never find it if you didn't bring it up for them to look at.
And then on top of that, now this is where the other kicker too, is that on top of that 10, 12 years ago, McDowell wasn't even in NASCAR. He was in USF 2000 at the time. So again, and we're not going to give this person any name recognition because we don't want to make him any more popular than he already is. But the fact is that this whole deal with Gragson is that, again, we talked about it last week ad nauseum for almost 15 minutes. But the fact of the matter still resides is that, yes, Gragson made a very boneheaded move, but in the same right, this bonehead that found it also needs to kind of fade off into the shadows and just not ever surface again. Just my personal opinion. And again, folks, we understand if you've turned us off for being a little political, more so political than race related. We're actually going to get back into topic mode here at this point when it comes to that, and move over to the world
back to your regularly scheduled racing.
Exactly. Green flag is back in the air. We are no longer black flagged for whatever reason. But moving on over to the world of IndyCar here, and Scott Dixon this past weekend, speaking of Indianapolis, secures a spin and win victory.
Iceman, as they were calling him. He got spun on lap 1. He came back and won the race. I'm a little upset that Alexander Rossi did not win the race, but I mean, we're fine. We're okay. We're doing fabulous right now.
It can't be any worse than the fact is that the last time Formula One raced, Max Verstappen kept on winning again before the summer break. So I just had to.
Wayne,
I just
I'm gonna come over there and I'll make the drive. I will make the drive, and I'll come over there and I'll whoop you.
I had to get that out there, just to see what your reaction would be, Zach. You know I love you, brother.
Andy, you deal with this guy a lot more than I do, and
he cooks well, so I'll put up with him.
And moving on over now to the world of the NHRA here, and this past weekend, Andy, out in Topeka, Kansas, they were Bob Task III, Justin Ashley, and Erica Enders all getting wins in their respective classes this weekend. And honestly, it's good to see Erica Enders back on top of the Pro Stock motorcycle class with a Wally there. And had a chance to talk to her a couple of months ago. Out and about doing things with a different program that I worked on. And she's a class act lady and plenty of talent. And again, good to see her back in the victory winner circle.
We need to get some of those straight line folks over here on Burning Rubber Radio again. We used to have a lot of drag racers on here, and I know there's folks out there listening that are in agreement with that. So
yep. And I'll tell you what, I think we're gonna see if we can. I need to reach back out to John's people again because I haven't heard back from John's folks yet. So I'm kind of curious and see what we can do there. But time.
Well, I mean, if we're talking about straight line folks, a couple of drag racers, why don't we talk about Ron Capps? And last Thursday, he was tearing it up on the dirt with Tony Stewart at Eldora, who ended up taking the win at Eldora for the SRX series. Ron Capps was doing pretty well until he hit the outside wall and tore the front end off the car. And it was a good podium actually to see. We had Tony Stewart on top, Ryan Newman in second, and Haley Deegan finishing third. It was definitely a great race. And I mean, if you want to see some G-rated down and dirty, you can look at that instead of looking at Andy and Wayne.
Yeah, that's really the truth here. But anyway, when you go back to talking about Ron Capps, that's awesome. Ron, everyone thinks of being a champion, a winner in NHRA, team owner, and all that stuff.
And avid sim racer too.
Exactly, a huge iRacer, but he's also wanting to get into the ovals. He's done the Prelude to the Dream, one of Tony Stewart's races.
Yeah, that's a dirt race, I believe. That's still oval racing, and that's something great to see him. And personally, I'd like to see him hop in some late models at some point. That would be awesome to see, some late model stock racing, or even some limited late model. It's something that would fit his style. Like the limited late models have a lot of grip when it comes to the short track packages that they have, and these NHRA cars, they got the sticky tires, that PJ1. Oh, yeah. They're used to having all that grip. It's something that might actually fit his style.
Yeah.
What about this? I wouldn't be surprised if you don't see Ron Capps in a truck before it's all said and done.
No,
that might be something great to see him in too, or even in an ARCA car, honestly.
Yes.
Right. Yeah, I would not be surprised at all. And speaking of Capps sadly hitting the wall there this past Thursday in the SRX series, at least we know he wasn't Tracy'd.
Yeah, he was. There is no more Tracy. They kicked him out for good.
Exactly.
I wouldn't say for good. They still kind of would like to have him, just not this year.
Yeah.
No more Paul Tracy this year. I guess the guy can't drive a nail, much less a stock car.
Yeah.
Because Tony Stewart had enough of them breaking his cars. So.
Oof.
Yep, there is that, and speaking of breaking, Andy, with all the jokes you were sitting there cracking, you broke my daggum pick machine for the week. So we're gonna have to just call out picks by hand this week.
That's just Wayne saying he didn't do the graphic.
That's right.
No, Andy actually broke it, but
excuses, Wayne.
Well, with that said here, folks, we do have to get on over to picks here for the week before we get ready to round out the show here. And, Andy, as per usual, you got number one, my man.
The guy that's got a win to get in, Chase Elliott.
Yeah, because after this week, he only has one more opportunity, and that being at Daytona to do anything. So we will see if Chase Elliott.
Fucking Wayne.
Yeah, we'll see if he can do anything. My pick, I'm gonna go with the guy that got the multi-win last year. I'm gonna say Kyle Larson gets it done this weekend coming up at Watkins Glen and continues the streak of wins up in New York State. And Taylor Burris got himself a pick in as well here. It was a last minute pick, but he is going to take the number 16 of AJ Allmendinger this weekend coming up at Watkins Glen. Zachary Mertis, you are up next.
Whale. I'm backing up with Andy. I'm taking Chase.
Oh god.
I don't know how many times I've used him this year though for the
At least 9.
the count. No, it has not been
Yes, it
9.
has.
It's been like 5, probably. I don't know. I stopped keeping track after Vegas.
Mm-hmm. I kind of figured you would.
Oh well.
No,
Hey.
where's BD? Where's Bobby Dale Earnhardt? Where's his pick?
So
He's taking same as us, I think.
Yeah, he took Chase Elliott as well here. And before we forget, NASCAR chef John Dix, who's your pick for the week here, brother?
I'm going with Mr. Tyler Reddick.
All right. Well, Tyler's a
Solid
good choice.
pick.
Good pick.
I will say though, before we hop on out of here for the show, I know that a lot of people will be listening to this on Saturday the 19th, but we are recording this on the 14th of August. It was not only a few days ago, but I do want to wish Jeremy Taylor a belated happy birthday.
Yes.
That's right. Our own Jeremy Taylor. I think he's spotting again for AJ this weekend at Watkins Glen too.
Yep. Yeah. Kind of a shame I'm not going to go up and see my cousins this week because otherwise I'd go up there and say hey to them. But
Hey, I also want a quick shout out to Angela Brady, who's the newest police officer at Kansas City Police Department and happens to be my trainee right now, who's listening to this and looking at me and going, wow, you actually said my name on the radio.
Well, that, and we also can't actually, you know what? We forgot other sponsors today too, Andy. Boy, we really are off kilter.
Yeah.
Monster 3X Concept Lures. Got to say hi to all those guys out there. Raul, Monster3XUSA.com. Get your lure hook up whenever you need it. Again, Monster3XUSA.com. And you know what? We'll give another shout out to Heights Meat Market out there because I know they're probably listening to us again this week too. So, and with that said here, folks, we have got to round it out for another week of Burning Rubber Radio on the Performance Motorsports Network, the Tan Talk Radio Network, Wingding.tv, and for our guest this week, Silly Steve Harpin, and for everybody involved in the show here, NASCAR chef John Dix, Zachary Murtis, Bobby Dale Earnhardt, Taylor Burris, Jeremy Taylor, and Andy DeLay. I am producer Wayne, and until next week, guys, we love you. Burning Rubber, baby!
Burning rubber, baby.
Bye, Mom.
Burning Rubber Radio is a production of the Performance Motorsports Network in association with the White Lightning TV studios in Statesville, North Carolina. This week's episode was produced by Wayne Owens. Remember to visit burningrubberradio.com for news, recipes, and more great content. Burning Rubber Radio may also be downloaded from our podcast site, pmn2.com, or from Spotify, iTunes, or Google Podcasts. The opinions expressed on this show are those of the hosts and guests and do not reflect those of the Performance Motorsports Network or the Scorpion Radio Group. Any use of the accounts or descriptions contained in this broadcast must be with the express written permission of the Performance Motorsports Network or the Scorpion Radio Group.